You bought a better bag of feed for your hens last month, the good one, the one with the sunrise on the front. And here you are 2 weeks later, back at the Tractor Supply for more, and you have not fixed a single thing. You have only fed the problem and aggravated it. That bag never once solves anything. It buys you a fortnight and sends you straight back to that car park again, month after month. For as long as you keep hens, there is a low wooden frame sat at my feet with the green coming up through a sheet of wire mesh. And there are birds stood along the edge of it right now with their heads down, eating for nothing. And it never once sent me back to any store for more. Before this video is done, you will have 20 of these, 20 ways to feed a flock for free. Things growing wild, cheap or already sat on your own ground, that go straight into a hen and never once send you a bill. You do not need a greenhouse. You do not need to buy fertilizer. You do not need warm ground. You do not need good soil to start most of it. You do not need to spend £1 after the first year. It does one thing. It feeds a hen. They will sell you a bag every month for as long as you keep hens and call the whole of it agriculture. That is not a mistake. It is the entire business plan, and once you see it, you will not unsee it. My name is Angus Douglas. I am a shepherd on the west coast of Scotland. 340 ewes on the hill, 41 lambings behind me, 20 hens in the run behind the byre, and the sack of feed in the corner of my shed was bought in March, and it is August now, and it is still half full. My hands split at the knuckle every spring, and no cream has ever fixed that. And my wife has opinions about the number of animals on this ground that I long since stopped arguing with. The feed trade cannot tell you any of what is coming, because the whole of their business only works if you come back for another bag. A channel with a link under the video cannot tell you either, because if you stop needing the bag, they stop needing you. Nobody has paid me for a word of this. By the end of it, you will have 20 things you can find, grow or build this year. What each one feeds a hen, and when in the calendar it matters most. The one mistake that undoes the whole system if you get it wrong, and why nobody selling you a bag has ever once mentioned any of it. Stay with me. Here is the one idea that makes the rest of this make sense, and if you take nothing else away, take this. A hen does not need a shop, she needs a season. Once you understand that, everything after it is only detail. A sack of feed is a flat 16% handed out the same in June as it is in January, whether she wants it or not. And the ground gives her more when she needs more, and less when she needs less, which a bag can never do. Here is the number behind that. A hen in her first spring is spending nearly everything she eats on the egg itself, and an egg is mostly protein and calcium. In October she is dropping every feather she owns and growing them back, and a feather is close to pure protein too. So spring and autumn she wants protein hard, and in the black months she wants energy and something to peck at more than protein at all. A flat sack cannot do any of that. It just sits there being 16%. Forever, whether that is right for the month or not. My grandmother kept 60 hens on this ground through a war, and she ran the whole flock off what she called the kale yard, a strip of rough ground behind the house that was never a lawn and never a flower bed, growing coarse green stuff for the pot and the birds together. I have a photograph of her at that door with a besom in one hand and a bowl of scraps in the other, and she never wrote one word of what she was doing down on paper, because in her day every woman in this glen could have told you the same thing. The chain broke somewhere in 2 generations, and what came into the gap was a paper sack with a picture of a hen on the front of it, and a great many videos telling folk in cold, wet countries to go and grow bananas. I am not going to do that to you. Everything coming in the next half hour grows in wind, wet ground and a hard frost. My dogs know that frame better than I do at this point. The older one sits at the corner of it every morning like she is guarding the crop, and I have given up telling her otherwise. Hold that in your head, because it decides whether the rest of this works for you or not, and stay with me, because there is a lot still coming. Right, the first one properly, because it is the one on the front of this video and it deserves the whole of it. That frame at my feet is called a grazing box, and folk have built them the same way for longer than there has been a feed store to buy from. Here is why it exists. Sow green seed straight into a run and your birds scratch the whole lot out by the roots inside one day, and you are left looking at bare dirt wondering where your seed went. A hen does not graze like a sheep, she digs. Why does the wire matter? Because it stops her doing exactly that. 4 boards nailed into a rectangle, no bottom, sat straight on the earth, filled with any soil. Even the stuff out of a molehill does fine. Why does molehill soil work so well? Because a mole has already done the digging for you. It is fine, aerated, and full of worked ground for nothing. Sow it thick with kale and clover and whatever coarse green seed you have got. Fix a sheet of wire mesh down over the top with a hole about an inch across, big enough that she can put her head through and crop the top of the green, small enough that she cannot get her foot in to scratch the roots out. Give it 10 days to get away before you let her at it, and the green grows up through the wire, gets cropped flat and grows straight back at her, week after week, all season long. Without the wire, that box is stripped bare in one day. With the wire, it feeds birds for months off 2 square yards of ground you were not using for anything. I know a man 2 glens over who built the same thing off a picture he saw online with no wire on it at all. His was bare dirt inside a day. Mine has been going steady since April. That is a sack of feed replaced by 4 old boards and a length of wire. And it is only the first of 20, and I promised you 20. So let us get through the rest of them properly. Before I do, there is a plant further on this list that doubles itself faster than anything else I am going to show you, and it sounds like it beats every single one of the other 19 put together. Hold that thought, because the truth of it is not quite what you will have heard. Now before I get into it, one thing and one time only. There is more of this than I can fit in any video. How to read a hen 3 days before she goes down. How to feed a flock off your own ground, month by month, winter included. What to handle yourself in the byre and what to lift the phone for. How my grandfather did the things he never wrote down. Every method I've never given out, I put all of it in a book at angusdouglaspoultry.com. Link in my description or scan the code on your screen. That is the only time you will hear me say it. Now let us get back to the video. Now, the honest word, because I promised you the pond plant. Azolla, the wee floating fern folk are excited about just now, doubles itself in a warm pond down south, faster than almost anything I know of. But up here, in a cold pond through a highland winter, it sulks, it near stops altogether. And if you are cold like me, treat it as a summer bonus, sat on top of everything else on this list, and never as the backbone of it. I tried it in a livestock trough 3 summers, running before I would say that to you on camera. So you are getting 3 summers of being wrong before I got it right. That is the truth of it. And it is not the version that sells the most subscriptions. Right, the 20, in the order I would actually go and do them, and stay with me. Because there is one further on that gets a flock through the darkest week of winter off one afternoon's work in August. Number 1. Nettles. Cut in June before they flower while the stem is still soft. Tie them in loose bundles and hang them upside down in a dry shed for 3 weeks. Why upside down? Because whatever goodness is in the stem runs down into the leaf, and the leaf is the part you are keeping. Dried, a nettle leaf runs 20 to 25% protein, the same country as the costly part of your sack, and it is off a bank most of you are currently strimming down and burning. Number 2. Fat hen. A weed in every vegetable patch and every field margin in the country. Turn a young leaf over and there is a white mealy bloom on the underside like somebody dusted it with flour. Rub it with your thumb and away it comes. That is your proof. Good protein, high in minerals, and it is standing in ground you already own. Number 3. Chickweed. The one green thing alive in January when everything else is dead or under mud. Pull a length of the stem apart slowly, and there is a fine white thread inside it like a hair. Nothing else has that thread. A double handful in February is worth more than a wheelbarrow of it in June, because February is exactly when her yolks would otherwise go the colour of a paper bag. Number 4. Kale. Why does frost improve it? Because the plant turns its own starch into sugar to keep from freezing, so the leaf is sweeter in February than it was in October. Hang the whole stalk on a bit of string at the height of her head rather than dropping the leaves on the ground, and watch her stretch up and chase it as it swings away from her. That keeps a whole flock busy the better part of an hour on a wet afternoon, when a bored hen would otherwise be pulling feathers out of the bird in front of her. Number 5. Comfrey. One root cutting goes down through the subsoil further than anything else in the garden and hauls calcium and potassium up into the leaf. A hen is shelling an egg every day of her life, and that shell is calcium, so this plant mines it for her, for free, forever. The honest word here, it is a supplement and never a bulk feed. A few leaves a week, wilted a day first, because too much of it over a long time is hard on a liver, and that is not a rumour, it is well documented. Here is a wee thing that has nothing to do with feed at all. My wife plants marigolds along the front of the comfrey patch because she says the corner looks like a building site otherwise, and she is right, and I have never once told her different. Number 6. Mulberry. Plant a white one or one of the quick hybrids, never the slow black one if you want to see it bear fruit in your own lifetime. The berries feed a flock from midsummer for weeks on end, and the leaf, dried, runs 15 to 25% protein, which is the same country again as the costly part of your sack. The tree feeds you twice, berries in July and dried leafy hay off the same branches come January. Number 7. Hawthorn. Berries through October and November, exactly when your birds are half bowled with the molt and hungriest, and it does a second job no feed can do, which is cover. A hen under a thorn hedge is not a hawk's dinner. The same planting that drops the autumn feed gives the flock somewhere to bolt to the first time a shadow crosses the yard. Number 8. Siberian pea shrub. The cold country answer to a tropical fodder shrub that would be dead here by November. It laughs at frost that would kill that Canary Islands plant 10 times over. The pods dry and rattle and split on the branch in late August, and throw seed the old accounts put at over 30% protein onto the ground under the hedge. No harvest, no work. The shrub does the feeding entirely on its own. Number 9. A worm box. An old crate or a broken bath with holes in the bottom, sat in a shaded corner, half filled with damp bedding and torn cardboard and garden waste. Nothing cooked and nothing from the kitchen. Feed it and leave it. Once a week turn back the top layer and throw a couple of handfuls of worms into the run, and watch what happens. 20 birds arrive at a dead sprint. That is the sound a hen makes for nothing in a bag. Number 10. Grass clippings off ground you were mowing anyway, piled up rather than spread thin, so they scratch through it, hunting the bugs as much as eating the green itself. Just mind it has not been treated with anything you would not want going through a hen yourself. Before I give you the rest, there is one mistake still to come on this list that undoes the whole thing if you get it wrong, and it is not the one most of you are expecting. I will show you exactly where it sits when we get there. Number 11. Kitchen scraps, peelings, stale bread, cooked potato, kept in a small bin by the sink and carried out daily. Never anything mouldy, and go careful with salt and with citrus. A little is fine, a lot is not. Number 12. Garden thinnings, the bolted lettuce, the chard with a hole in it nobody wanted for the table, none of it wasted, all of it into the run. Number 13. Sunflowers grown along the fence line. The seed is fat, protein and energy together, and the standing plants do a second job all summer, shade in the heat and a gathering place for the bugs underneath, which the birds work as hard as they work the seed heads once they drop. Number 14. Mulch and old logs turned over now and again. It brings the beetles and the woodlice in, and a hen will work a turned stump longer than she will work a bag, because a stump is interesting and a bag is not. Number 15. Fallen fruit and dropped leaves under any fruit tree in the yard. An apple tree does the same job a mulberry does, only later in the season, and most of you already have one standing there doing nothing for the flock at all. Number 16. Fermented feed, if you are buying any grain at all. Soak it a few days in its own water before you feed it. It fills a crop further on, less grain, and it does her gut good besides. That is not folklore, it is the same reason silage works. Number 17. A rain morning. The worms come up on their own after heavy weather, and a flock let into it will feed itself in 20 minutes flat. Free protein delivered by the sky, and it costs you nothing more than opening a gate. Number 18. Plain pasture. Let her walk on ground with something living in it, and she does most of this list herself without you lifting a hand. This is the one that actually matters most of the 20, and it is the one folks skip because it sounds too simple to be worth saying out loud. Number 19, and here is the one I kept back because it is the mistake I promised you as well. Willow or mulberry branches, cut in August as thick as your thumb, tied in loose bundles and hung upside down in a dry, airy shed. And here is the mistake. Folk tie them tight to save space, and a tight bundle goes mouldy in the middle before Christmas. Loose bundles only. Air has to move clean through them. Done right. In January, a whole leafy bough goes into a bare run, and the flock strips it to twigs by dark. That is a summer tree feeding a flock in the deep of winter, and the whole of the mistake was one word, tight, instead of loose. Number 20, and the oldest one of the lot, a kale yard, the strip of rough ground behind every cottage door in this country for 400 years, growing coarse green stuff for the pot and the birds together. Nothing clever, nothing bought, just ground doing what ground has always done. Now the honest word, because I will not have you thinking any of this ends the sack altogether. A laying hen wants a steady protein and calcium ration every single day of the year, and this whole list is seasonal by nature. So what it does is cut the bill to a fraction and put colour in a yolk no shop egg has ever managed. It will not take you to zero, and anybody telling you different has not actually done it. Honest is better than impressive. Now here is the thing none of the other videos on this ever tell you, and it is the thing my grandmother actually knew that no plant list ever mentions. It is not which plant, it is when. She ran that kale yard on a calendar in her head that she never once wrote down. In spring, when a hen is laying hardest and an egg is mostly protein, she wanted the nettle and the fat hen and the pea shrub coming on through the summer, when the gut wants bulk and the yolk wants colour. She wanted the grazing box and the pasture and the fallen fruit doing the heavy lifting. In the autumn, when the flock is half bald and growing a whole new coat of feathers, she wanted the mulberry leaf and the hawthorn berries and the worm box working hardest of anything. And in the black months, when there is one green thing alive in the whole glen, she wanted the chickweed and the willow hay, and next to nothing else. That is the trick nobody puts in a video. It was never a list, it was a calendar. And if you plant only for the list, half of what you have grown will be finished by the time she actually needs it. My grandfather never once explained why he fed the hens at a certain hour in December rather than any other hour, and it took me 11 years to work out what he was doing. I am not telling you that today because it belongs to a different video, but I will tell you it is bound up in this same idea. The timing matters more than the plant. Some of you watching this are going to try telling your vet or your feed merchant about a kale yard calendar, and he is going to look at you like you have grown a second head. I will deal with him properly in a minute, because he is going to come up again. Right, the questions I get every time, and I will answer them straight. The first, will this work on bare dirt with no soil worth mentioning? Less well. Most of what is on this list wants some ground under it. If you are on a hard run with nothing living in it, start with the grazing box and the worm box, because neither of those needs your existing dirt to be any good at all. The second, will it survive a real winter? 6 or 7 of the 20 are built for exactly that. The pea shrub, the hawthorn, the kale, the willow hay, they are chosen because they do not care what your winter throws at them. The tropical ones you see in other videos are chosen because they film well in a warm country, not because they will feed your flock in a Scottish February. The third, and here he is, the vet or the feed merchant who told you this is nonsense. He is not lying to you, and I want to be fair to him. He was taught under a system built entirely around a flat bag, sold every month, and nobody in that training ever asked him to think about a kale yard calendar, because there was no money in teaching it. That does not make him dishonest. It makes him a man who was never shown the other half of the picture, same as most of us were not, until somebody's grandmother happened to still be alive to tell it to us. I had exactly that conversation with the man who does my sheep dip. He stood in my yard for 10 minutes looking at the grazing box like it might bite him, and then he went home and built one, which is about as good a review as I have ever had. Before I let you go, 5 things 41 lambings, and a lot of poultry besides, have taught me that will not be in anybody else's version of this. 1. A hen fed on green stuff and worms lays a yolk the colour money cannot buy, and that colour in a shop egg is very often a powder measured on a paint fan, not the diet. Mind that next time you pay extra for orange. 2. The tidiest looking bird in a flock through the molt is very often your worst layer. She is taking her time because she has time, and the ragged half-bold one who looks a fright is the one who laid until she could not. 3. A mole in your garden is not a pest when you are building a grazing box. It is free labour, and I have never once in my life thought I would say that on camera. 4. A rain morning is worth more to a flock than a fine one, because the worms come up and the birds do a full protein harvest for you without you lifting a finger. 5. And this is the one that surprises folk most. The item on this list that saves the most money is not any of the shrubs or trees at all. It is plain pasture, letting her walk on live ground, because she does most of the other 19 herself if you simply give her the ground to do it on. Now, here is a number I have not given you yet, and it decides whether any of what I have just told you was worth an afternoon of your time. Here is the arithmetic: a sack running you close to £30 now, and climbing every month for as long as you keep hens, against 4 old boards, a length of wire, a root cutting, a handful of seed, and a couple of afternoons once. That is the whole of the number. And I am not telling you there was ever a meeting where somebody sat down and decided not to mention any of this to you. I do not believe in that. It is quieter than that. Nobody whose living comes out of that sack has any reason to bring any of it up. And so in 50 years, nobody has. 2 generations back, there was a kale yard behind every house in this glen, and a woman at the door who could have named every single plant on this list and told you the month each one was for. That knowledge did not get banned from anywhere. It got left behind while the bag took its place in the gap. You did not forget this. It was taken off you. So here is your week, and it is 5 lines. Build the grazing box, 4 boards and a sheet of wire. Learn nettle and fat hen and chickweed by sight, because once you have them for life. Plant 1 mulberry and 1 comfrey root where you can spare the ground for good. Start a worm box in the shade this week, because that one pays you before the month is out. And cut 1 bundle of willow or mulberry in August. Loose and hang it. Total cost of the whole lot is less than 1 month of sacks once, and it works for the rest of your keeping days. Tell me in the comments what country you are in, and which of these 20 is already growing wild on your own ground. And nobody ever told you what it was for. I read every one of these. Next time, since we have been on the subject of what goes in front of a hen, I am going to show you the 1 hour of the day to feed her in the deep of winter, and it is almost certainly not the one you are using. It is the natural next step after today. If you got something useful out of this one, subscribe and the next will find you on its own. There is another sat there on the screen that goes right along with it. Feed them right, watch them close, ring for help when it matters,